Presiding Officer, Saturday marks Holocaust Memorial Day on the theme Fragility of Freedom, a day we pause, reflect and remember all those who have been victims of genocide, but also a moment to pause and reflect on those that still strive to live with peace, with dignity, away from conflict and without prejudice. Presiding Officer, what has been revealed at the COVID inquiry this week has rightly shocked people across Scotland. The attempts to subvert the inquiry and to breach freedom of information laws is frankly a betrayal of the trust people put into this government. WhatsApp messages deleted on an industrial scale. The former First Minister using a private SNP email address for government business. Officials openly joking about breaking the law while the COVID pandemic tore through our country. The culture of cover-up started with the First Minister and extended down to the senior civil service. In June, when I asked Humza Yousaf if, and I quote, all requested emails, texts and WhatsApp messages will be handed over in full, he responded in this Parliament without equivocation, yes. Now that we know this wasn't true, was the First Minister knowingly misleading Parliament, or was he so out of his depth he didn't know what was going on?
First Minister.
Of course, we did hand over what we had. 28,000 messages that we have been handed over. For those officials, or indeed former ministers of the government, that don't have WhatsApp messages, they will have to account for that in front of the inquiry. But Anna Sarwar can't say that there was deletion on an industrial scale when 28,000 messages have been handed over to the COVID inquiry. He can't say that I've been leading that from the top when I've handed over all of the WhatsApp messages I have, and no doubt in a couple of hours' time, will be questioned about them. So I think Anna Sarwar is absolutely right, as Douglas Ross is, to ask questions about our informal communications. There's nothing wrong in that. But to suggest that somehow there was a cover-up, I frankly do not believe even the public agree with Anna Sarwar nor Douglas Ross. Why? Because the public looked at this government, questioned this government, saw that this government had a First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon, who stood in front of the cameras every single day and took questions from journalists, from members of this Parliament, over 250 times. Hardly the measure or the mark of a government that was trying to avoid scrutiny, Presiding Officer.
Anna Sarwar.
I think the First Minister must live in a parallel universe. The First Minister at the time deleted every WhatsApp message. The Deputy First Minister at the time deleted every WhatsApp message. The Chief Medical Officer at the time deleted every WhatsApp message. The National Clinical Director at the time deleted every WhatsApp message. If that is not deletion at an industrial scale, I do not know what planet Humza Yousaf lives in. Now, the First Minister gave an unequivocal commitment to Parliament, but on his watch, ministers and officials failed to comply with Do Not Destroy notices. Key evidence has been deleted and deliberately misleading statements have been given to the press and the public on his watch. One specific issue I raised with Humza Yousaf was the use of private SNP email accounts to conduct government business, something they have repeatedly denied. But evidence to the inquiry this week has blown that claim out of the water. When I asked Humza Yousaf in November if all emails, be they government or party emails, will be handed to the inquiry, again he said this in this Parliament. As for any other form of communication, including any other email address, it is my full expectation that that is handed over. He is First Minister and Leader of the SNP, so can I ask him, have any emails from SNP accounts been handed to the COVID inquiry, and if so, how many?
First Minister.
To Anna Sarwar, of course, the point which I think is fundamental here, the use of a non-government email address, such as an SNP email address, that doesn't exempt official correspondence from freedom of information requests. For example, if there's a freedom of information request for about a particular issue or for a particular document, that is not subverted because it's been sent to an SNP email address. Therefore, it should be handed over. I can give an absolute guarantee when it comes to my SNP email address, no government business was conducted over it. And, of course, in any private in any private communication application that I have, messages have been handed over. Not only have I handed over WhatsApp messages on my private Twitter account, where there's been private DMs, that they have also been handed over too. So when it comes to the government, I have made it very clear to every single minister, every single cabinet secretary, the permanent secretary has made it clear to every single civil servant that, regardless of the method of communication that is used, that we must comply with the Public Records Act, with FOI legislation and indeed with our mobile messaging policy. I go back to the point that I made to Douglas Ross, that regardless of the communication method used, whether it's an SNP email address or otherwise, any decisions that are made must be recorded in the corporate record and the salient points therefore recorded as well. And we will continue to comply fully, as I intend to do in a couple of hours' time, with the UK COVID inquiry.
Anna Sarwar.
This is meant to be a government he's in charge of and a party he's in charge of, but he can't answer for anybody else in government or his party, and only goes back to his own messages and his own emails. But this isn't just about the inquiry, this is about how this government operates. Because this is a party that over the last 17 years in government has created a culture of secrecy and cover-up. A culture that goes from the First Minister down. Because the SNP believe that it's one standard for them and another standard for everyone else. Because somehow the rules don't apply to the SNP. They have abused the trust that the people of Scotland put in them. And if they won't take my word from it, maybe they should listen to Caroline Stewart of the Scottish COVID bereaved. She said this: "I trusted them. I felt him and Nicola Sturgeon were honest and trying to be open with us. And to find out that that was all just a facade. I don't understand how they can hold their head up high." First Minister, how can you ever expect the people of Scotland to trust you or your party ever again?
Always through the chair, please. First Minister.
I will always leave the verdict of trust to the Scottish people. And that's why we will comply with not just the UK inquiry, the Scottish COVID inquiry, which, of course, we instructed. When it comes to transparency, that's why we've handed over 28,000 WhatsApp messages. That's transparency. 19,000 documents. That's transparency. When it comes to what this government has done across a range of portfolios, whether it's the duty of candour, whether it's the Patient Safety Commissioner, that is transparency. Whether it's public inquiries and instructing them, that is transparency. Whether it was the former First Minister standing up in over 250 media conferences, that was transparency. Taking questions from this chamber on
Let's
multiple
hear
occasions,
the First Minister.
dozens of occasions, that is transparency. And I will end where I started my response to Douglas Ross, that when it comes to those families that have been bereaved by COVID, first and foremost, our responsibility is to them. I can promise them when I appear in front of the inquiry that I know that they won't just want warm words, they will want to see and hear truthful answers to straight questions, and that's what I intend to do when I appear in front of the inquiry in a couple of hours' time.